As we continue this symposium, we now move on to an exciting session on Autocave, a cutting-edge platform poised to advance immersive research and engineering design. It is my privilege to invite Professor Palaniappan Ramu of IIT Madras to moderate this panel discussion. Professor Palaniappan Ramu holds a Bachelor of Engineering in Mechanical.
This is Professor Palaniappan Ramu from the Department of Engineering Design at IIT Madras. This particular panel also aligns sort of an informal launch of Autocave, where CAVE stands for Consortium for AR/VR Engineering, and Auto, of course, stands for Automotive. There are different other caves such as FinCave, BioCave, and stuff, but this particular panel is focused on the Autocave. This is going to be the title of the discussion today, XR for Affordable, Safe, and Sustainable Mobility in the Global South. Of course, from morning we have been having discussions on what is relevant to Global South. This is our conflicting objectives such as cost, efficiency, and the form factor. So this panel also will discuss on those things specific to the automotive industry. We're going to talk about different stages across an automotive industry, starting from prototyping to consumer experience. Okay. These are my panel members here. Mr. Sathiyaseelan, who's from Ashok, Leyland. These two people are sort of the OEM people. And Mr. Sundar from JLR, the Jaguar Land Rover, who's a senior AI engineer. The next two are more like solution providers. They develop XR solutions for different domains. Mr. Keyur from Plutomen, who's the CEO of Plutomen, and Kathirvel from TCS, who's the head of XR there. The next one is a special person, Rabindra, currently with Indian Register of Shipping, but he has experience working for automotive companies as well as the XR part. Currently, he's the CTO there. And of course, Arjun Dubey, the last but not the least, from NVidia, who's offering foundational solutions in XR rendering. And I'm the moderator. Okay. So, see, there is a saying in Tamil that says, "Edai edupadu, edai vidupadu," which means you don't know which one to take, which one to give away, right? So, before this, there was a Samsung talk, and I'm on fire because the panel is getting delayed, but you don't want to stop them because they are giving a fantastic talk on that, and then a group photo session is also delaying the session, but then you don't want to miss that as well, right? But so we are offset by a few minutes, but we'll try to accelerate here. So first few questions, we have directed questions to the panel members, and then I have few open questions after that. So the first question is to Satya, who's the VP styling. So he's a designer, but not like an engineering designer. He's a styling person. Now for you, Satya, how do you see XR transforming early stage automotive design, especially before it gets into fabrications, or even as an alternate to prototyping? How do you see XR is changing this in the context of Global South?
Oh, fantastic. That's the reason why I am here today to pass on a small message, because I'm in between technological masters, students, and all these people. But in India, the Global South, one thing which is lagging is the innovation. When it comes for new ideas, new innovation, India is only adapting whatever the followers of the trend. I think the XR, particularly the inclusive of all the augmented reality, VR, and also we are using VR for the past 20 years in terms of VRED and all. But when it comes for prototyping, as particularly very precisely expressed by you, the pre-production have a lot of challenges in India. If not confusing, I'll take one product like a headlamp. Today in automotive, regardless whether it's a bike or a truck or a car, pre-production lamp design we do with a lot of digital and interventions of design process, but we have to send a headlamp for testing by a ARI regulating authority. So you have low beam, high beam, and turn indicators, DRL, so many park lamp, clusters of various regulated lamps. They are supposed to throw a certain amount of lux value. Now, when you see how many of the companies, the technological leaders of India can deliver a design which is in the sketchbook to have the vision or a proving prototype, there is nobody in India. If you have huge money, you have to go to Europe. Otherwise, you have to go to China, Taiwan, kind of. That's the situation. Now, every one of you know, there is nobody today in India who can make an LCD TV, which is a brand. So, in a cut short, the XR is a boom. It's actually, in Tamil, people say Varaprasadam. So that is, the XR is going to take the craftsmanship or the knowledge, skill which is available elsewhere. In no time, we can realize here. So therefore, we can quickly make the design cycle as well as a precise craftsmanship can come.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Satya. So your point is that this is a boon to a very large extent that we should leverage so that it could be a cost cutting as well as preserving the quality part.
Yes.
All right.
It's like you are taking a help of an Eskimo in a hot summer of Chennai here.
Right.
To do some work without transforming the climatic problem.
Got it. All right. Thank you. So, yeah. So the next question is to Sundar, who's from JLR. Sundar, see, there are different stages in an automotive design. For instance, starting with conceptual design, we get into detailed design, even before that voice of customers, and then prototyping, and we go to the market, right? But even in this, during the detailed design stage, let's say ergonomic studies, safety simulations, where do you think XR is going to help us benefit in a major sense?
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Professor, for inviting, and next AC for the opportunity. To answer the question, I would like to follow up on what Satya has mentioned. It's a boon. And where I feel the XR helps is the prototypes that involve subjective assessment, perception, and visualization, which is harder for the physical prototypes to realize or tap upon. So what it means is that with XR devices, by XR devices, what I mean in automotive sense is that it's an AR glasses which contains two cameras, which envisions the stereo vision, the microphone, the micro speaker, and also the IMU to have a 3-axis accelerometer. With this can help in basically giving an assessment for any customers to see how the vehicle behaves. So usually what we have in the initial testing phases is that the vehicle is run through a proving grounds, and we try to see how the vehicle reacts to different vehicle dynamics. And what we really do is we traditionally dissect the vehicle top down. One is the suspension, and we have a sprung mass on top of it. And we try to make sure the sprung mass has lesser NVH. And with XR, what we can do is tap that niche area of how a human or user on top of the vehicle also feels like. Because even the head moves on top of the sprung mass, and it really helps to map and understand how a human perceives that motion, etc. And this helps in solving a lot of unsolved issues like motion sickness. So that's one area where we are still trying to improve upon every automotive OEMs. So we can have an eye tracking, we can try to see how the face reaction changes, etc., and we can try to solve that motion sickness issues. And the other one is to understand the customer feedback, how the vehicle behaves. Because usually we involve surveys, we ask for textual feedback, and that can be eradicated. We can basically try to understand how the customer behaves. So this is one area where the subjective assessment is, and it's difficult to objectify it, so it helps there. And the other one is visualizations. We really don't know how the car feels in real world. We really don't know how the coloring scheme goes along, and if the customer likes this or not. So all that initial phases helps in the vehicle assessment and validation. And I think it really helps in the time to market, because time is money right now. Every customers want a new feature, a refreshing feature every year, and we can't have a delay in development. And I think XR fills that gap, and that's where we should get head up.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Sundar, for those thoughts. Next to Keyur. who runs Plutomen. So you work across a series of domains, including manufacturing and mobility. So where do you see XR is changing the life or making things life easier for people like technicians, inspectors, and service engineers in these domains?
So, hello everyone. We at Plutomen focus on how we can empower the people who are actually building, maintaining and moving this world. So before addressing this, a quick note on what are the challenges technicians are facing when it comes to Global South. One basic is limited resources, and second, uneven access to the training and the expertise. The other bigger challenge is typically what happens, how they are working is they typically rely either on the experience or they rely on the verbal instructions. And that typically leads to a lot of inconsistency. So that's where XR and now AI together will typically look at changing it and reducing the overall gap. So that's where we typically try to follow. And how this technology is impacting the technicians across services, or I would say in operations as well. There are various layers to it, but if I have to summarize, one is XR typically helps in one, while they are working, it can give them step-by-step instructions. So basically what it is doing is their dependency on their memories, guessworks, experience goes down. So typically also what it leads to, a 2 or 3 year old experienced guy can actually work as a decade-old experienced guy. So typically it also again leads to faster career growth into their overall life journey. The other area is access to expertise. That means that even if I'm at a remote location, I can connect with an expert instantly. So that's another area where typically it goes in. Third, very important area with a lot of smart glasses coming in play is hands-free documentation. So evidence taking, compliances, those are another areas where it is very usefully helping them to digitalize the things which are still on paper. So I think these are key areas.
Yeah.
Apart from that, it definitely increases their confidence. It also helps in safety from a perspective of giving them contextual warnings and alarms while they are using. Third being standardization. So since the work instructions are available as a standard, across all the plants, the variability can be reduced. And that's what slowly they typically are seeing as an experience. So ultimately, it's changing while adoption takes time. But with this changes, we are seeing that overall productivity of an organization as a whole is increasing. And the training time typically also reduces.
Okay. Those are fantastic insights. So basically, the documentation and compliance is something that I see like super important in the whole this, and the whole way most of these people even in organized sectors, they work on, as he pointed out, on verbal instructions, and it's driven by their experience. So if this can bring some sort of formalism into it, that's fantastic. Okay, great. Thanks for your thoughts on that. And this is to Kadir from TCS. He heads the XR department there. So time to market. It was already pointed out, Kadir, by Sundar. So earlier, about 15 years ago, it was like a few months, I think, for a car from when it's ready for production, for them to take calls. But right now, it's been boiled down to a few weeks. And now everything is instant. Upgradation, Rabindra. Upgradation, not an entire new model. Few weeks, right? So now, so time to market becomes important now. So where do you think XR can really help? I'm sure it at a majority of these points, but which one do you think are the few important stuff? And where is the most efficient gain?
Yeah, the thing is to have a successful product in the market, the design factor is more important. At the end, the model should succeed in the market, right?
Exactly.
So the Tata Nexon cases, right? They have done a very good, collaborative mode. There is a way actually we can give very collaborative input from the people, especially interior, exterior designs basically. You can save your IP as well, but you can collect all the inputs from them so that you won't fail in the market. You'll first launch itself, you will succeed actually. So that's a powerful medium is there. Engineering prototype, of course, the currently, right, that the time taking for the decision making, it's huge, right? So the traditional life cycle process, that, right? So you make 2D drawings and 3D CAD drawings, then convert to textures and everything, then put it to the XR platforms. So everything, it's a long process basically. See, if the technology enablers comes, NVidia, Arjun is there, the open USD and the GPU powers it comes. So complete process, the single source of truth will be there, so that in the future technology evaluations, yes, the time to market it will reduce, quickly it can do that. But with now, because to make one product to be concise one product, 70 type of prototypes should be back and forth to happen to say. But with the current technologies, we can reduce 25%. But as I mentioned, with the USD GPU comes, it can go up to 50% beyond that as well. But XR is maturing towards that line actually. So that's what we are heading there. So I would say that right now, the interior, exterior designs, prototyping, yes, with a collaborative approach, we can involve them. And in engineering also, engineering we don't need common people, right? The engineering SMEs can involve there. But some cases, some limitations are there when we do the prototyping, especially mass and all that, volume and all that, right? Haptics are really, really costly nowadays, right? So the technology is evolving, but the more we go further, so we can make, we can reduce the time to market.
Okay. Yeah. So you mean to say something on, for instance, one of the technologies could be like haptics. If it can be made a little cheaper, then the efficiency gain could be much higher in those areas.
And also, like, the pod kind of setup also should come. The small kind of pod, actually, where, the heat simulations, research simulations, everything we make, right? Yes, of course, you can make your own virtual factories. That's, yeah. And, the BMW survey, it's confirmed that, right? With the power of XR, they reduce their operational and everything up to 30%.
Right.
And the SolidWorks survey also confirms that actually.
Okay.
That's the power of this technology, as Satya said.
Sure. Okay. Thanks, Kathir, for that insight. And Rabindra, the question is for you. Is XR mature enough to replace traditional work instructions, or do you believe currently in its current state is it still only complementary?
Thank you. I was thinking whether you will ask me a question or not. I was getting worried, right?
I'm following the order.
I was just trying to grab each one, but okay, so I'll come to this. You see the automotive, right? Automotive has got the product life cycle stages. We do the design. Design has multidisciplinary. A lot of electrical, mechanical, manufacturing come together to give the feedback. Then with the CAE validation. Then it goes for the new product introduction, where the team comes and he builds the kind of prototype. And then we put up the plant, we call the productions. And there will be green factory, green project or brownfield projects. And it goes sales and marketing. So these are all the stages of the product development. And each development, I have worked for the 32 years on this domain. And the 32 years back, as I mentioned that in India, hardly people are talking about the technology, and we're facing technology to bring to really you talk about the faster time to market. So based on my experience, there are 35 problem statements are created real time where XR can support, all right? And this is available on XTIC website. Anyone can go pick up that and start working on that. That still will become the company, right? So it's available. Now coming to this point, so going back 3 decades back, right? We used to have in Tata Motors, we call DP Lab, Digital Prototype Lab. What we used to do it, we have got the engineering software where we design. So there was a lab with some head-mounted devices, right? And used to review the product with point of view, only visualization. Only visualization. At the time, haptic was not there, right? So we used to do the reviews and find it out is rightly fitting or not fitting. Only visualization, right? It throws out a lot of hidden issues, right? The classes are not able to fit it out. That we used to do it. So we started 3 decades back. To give you some numbers, right? Setting up one DP lab, can you guess what was the cost? Cost was going around 5 crores. 5 crores. And if you go to any location of Tata Motors, find that 1 dB lab is there. Still there, people go, come and review. So this was the part of the processes we brought into them at that time. At them, this technology was not so matured. The most important, what we did in the work instructions, typically earlier used to create the process sheet, standard operating procedure. This was a kind of the document in the hard copy format, right? So how is it done? We have got engineering software, right? So we do the design there, we do the process planning, and that relies the process planning for a particular manufacturing plant, standard operating process. We used to do that. So how the technology evolved? This work instruction will put the hard copy into the line side of the each station, see it. Then we graduated and implemented the chaos there, go and search in the digital format. Last we did, third what we did, we used to create the videos with all your product process resources to use this kind of operating instruction for each of the operations. And we do it in the Myanmar plant when we set up that. So we did it. Now, same thing we are bringing to, in fact, close to 300 factories we have built in digitally and the physically. But that was the format like you mentioned about it, right? Now we are the XR is there because we have got the data ready, available, as a single source truth he mentioned about it. Take that data. Engineering software has got their own, but now the game engine platform is also built up where we can do high level of rendering visualization. So this is the way how it is evolved. One more point is that how faster time to market, you ask a question. We have introduced in my leadership is simultaneous engineering. Simultaneous, we are not pushing any product for the proto development or prototype development in the line. First to simulate the entire thing in the virtual environment. There are engineering software also to it, but XR expedite that, find out the gaps, collision, interference, ergonomics, time analysis. How we can do the timeless so that we can do remove the value added, keep the value time, remove the non-value added time. So this is how the involved is that, and I see that adoptions are not that, adoptions are really increasing. The more and more domains are being done. This is how they evolve, sir.
Okay, so can I interpret what you're saying as over a period of time, XR is likely to replace traditional work instructions? Currently it is
already started.
Already started,
I
okay.
did the past.
All right.
So how they evolve the entire history.
I just want that from your mouth. All right, thank you, Ravindra, for that thing. Next is Arjun. So Arjun is from NVidia. He's working on XR rendering. So Arjun, how do you think XR can improve the customer journey, specifically on the showroom experiences, for instance, focusing on virtual test drives and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. So buying a car is a pretty significant decision. There's the monetary outlay. There's the fact that it's a consumer durable, so you're stuck with it for 10 years if you take care of it. There's the fact that car manufacturers now offer N different paint colors, different interior choices, different trims. You have a combinatorial explosion of options. However, when you turn up to the car dealership to purchase the car, they're not going to have every single option that is available. They'll have some representative best guess, data-driven of course, of what you might like to see. So you're kind of faced with the difficult decision of going with what they have, which may not be exactly what you wanted, or trying to imagine what the car you want is going to look like, and taking a risk on whether what you get will be the thing that you pictured in your head or not. And I think that's where XR really has a role to play to turn that customer journey into a kind of a walk through a blind forest into something where you actually feel like you've seen the thing that's going to arrive in your driveway, a couple of weeks or months down the line. The other part of it, I think, is that it has huge benefits for the auto manufacturers themselves. They have a logistical nightmare on their hands trying to get all these cars into showrooms and keep the right stock of the right level of models, available for people to take and not run out of the models that people actually want, but still have some of the high-end and low-end models that, some customers may opt for. If you can get the customer into a smaller space, show them the vehicle that they're actually going to get, and then deliver that much closer to their actual residence or maybe even into their home, you've simplified, you've also improved the logistical nightmare for the manufacturers, the distributors, the dealers, and everybody involved in this picture. So that all sounds very good. Unfortunately, it's actually a very difficult thing to do. The human visual system is absolutely incredible. I mean, we heard earlier about how a human on a bicycle is one of the most efficient things on the planet. Our eyes are also some of the best eyes on the planet. We're really, really good at seeing. And it's really difficult to fool our eyes into seeing something and being convinced that that thing is real. It should reflect light correctly. It should have the right texture. It should have the right albedo and the spherical harmonics of the lighting that's on the object should be matched. It's a very, very difficult problem to solve. A way I like to think about it is, if you say a picture is worth 1,000 words, you're saying the information content of a picture is about 1,000 words. Okay, that's great. You need 2 pictures, you need 1 for each eye, so now we're at 2,000 words. We've learned in modern XR that stereo is great, but you actually also want depth, because if you don't want to make people sick, you want to be able to do some local reprojection on the device while the new image is being rendered, so that the old image can be viewed from a slightly different angle without causing nausea. So now you've doubled it again. Now we're at 4,000 words. And guess what? You need to do this at 90 to 120 frames per second. So let's choose 100. Now we're at 400,000 words. That's in the ballpark of the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy in terms of information content. You need to get all that information in front of your user every single second. And as you've probably heard this time and time again, Moore's law is dead. Computers are not getting faster for the same level of power and the same level of space. If you want double the compute, you need double the power now. So when you're talking about a device that's supposed to be on your face, you don't want 600 watts of power going through that thing. It's going to cook you. You need to be able to generate all this information somehow in a place where it can be generated with the appropriate power requirements, and then send it to a much lower powered device, especially when you're talking about a market where not everyone's going to have an Apple Vision Pro, right? Or even a Galaxy XR. It's an amazing device, but it's out of reach for most people. So in order to solve this challenge, you need to start thinking very creatively. And a project that I was recently involved in was actually with Jaguar Land Rover. They made a car configurator that was using the CAD data from the factory. So it's the actual, sub-millimeter precision where the actual panels on this car are. It is as close to the real thing as makes no difference in terms of, there's no decimation of this model. This is exactly the shape of the thing that you're going to look at, right? So that's the shape of it. The color, the lighting, the texture, we use ray tracing. So we're actually firing millions of beams of light into the scene, reflecting them off the surface. The beams split when they refract through glass. So it looks and behaves like this bottle of water. It may look like a simple thing, but you would need a supercomputer to simulate how light passes through this as I move it back and forth in front of my face. So we do all of that compute in the cloud. We compress it down. We send it to a device. We unpack all that information. We do local hybrid rendering and reproject it so that as you're moving around the car, you're kind of looking from different angles. It doesn't swim. It doesn't make you feel nauseous. The color is exactly the color of the metal or the leather or the wood material. The texture looks exactly correct. You can't feel the car. That's the next step. That's the haptics that we've been talking about, right? But you can experience visually almost an exact reproduction of what this thing is going to look like. And this project recently won the Red Dot Design Award, which means that people who are much more intelligent about design than I am put this thing on, tried it out, and said, yes, this is as close to reality as you can get. And I think that as we move further along that line, there's a huge opportunity, especially here where your retail space constrained and your storage space constrained, especially in bigger cities where you're going to put all these cars, right? To completely leapfrog the traditional automotive purchasing experience that is happening in Europe or North America and move to a virtual purchase experience that will be much more streamlined than anything that people experience today.
Okay, thanks for those detailed insights, Arjun. This sort of reminds me of the square cube law, as we want to reduce the shape and then the size, and then we want the compute power to go high. One of the panel members has a time cap, so I'm going to quickly go to a question. It is an open question, but I'll ask Satya to address that first. He might want to leave soon. So I'm skipping a couple of questions, but I'm coming back to for the rest of the panel. Satya, what is that one advice that you would give to young entrepreneurs? Many of them are here, who are entering into the automotive space today.
Oh, that's a very interesting. I mean, there is a selfish motive. So I'm working on a platform to, design this country, not just automobile. India is one of the very few countries. It's very filthy, road dust, so many problems which is coming. For the entrepreneurs, instead of following the same footprint which is developed, instead of following the footprints of the West and East, you understand the problem. That India have a tremendous problem, and slightly unlikely to the answer that you are saying. The XR is a boom for a customization, small pockets, small needs, which is unproportionate for the cost and return of investment kind of problems are there, which can be very well addressed by this. So my advice to the entrepreneurs, to be individualistic innovators, to go understand the problem. There should be a purpose. You are making money, of course, it's a business at the end of the day. But how are you going to solve a problem? That is a purpose, and which is ecologically different from the world. India have very specific issues and problems. So how are you going to solve the technological way by XR? So therefore you earn as well as solve a problem for the society. It's basically school, scholar and society. 3 S's have to be interconnected, connecting these dots. That is what my recommendation today.
Okay.
Thanks.
So you mean to say pick up a nice problem, solve it to the ground, and then money is just a byproduct. Thank you. All right. So once again, Satya, you're free to leave whenever you want to leave.
Yeah, so please excuse me, the entire crew.
Thank you very much for Satya making it to the panel. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thanks for the opportunity.
Sure.
It's right time. Thank you.
Thank you. So, over to the rest of the panel, please, Rabindra.
I will do half. One question I have said.
Sure.
One is the beyond outside XR, right? So my one suggestion advice would be that everyone engineer should first work on the shop floor or a design area for at least for 1.5 or 2 years. That will give set you the platform to understand how the things happens. Second, that what Satya said, that it is very important to first define the problem, smell the problem, go to the different stages of the product life cycle, stages of the automotive. Find out the problem, understand the problem, and see how XR can solve that problem to give a business benefit. That's the approach we should follow. Thank you.
On a lighter note,
Sure,
the
please.
35 pointers which you already have put on XTIC, they can look into those problem statements and they can start working on that as well.
Yeah.
Yes, everybody can see it.
Yeah, the thing is here. The idea comes and goes, so that's a flash. True. But perseverance, the consistency is more important. See, Apple, now we are in the 17th release, right? So uniqueness, it's coming in. Their success in the market. But the BlackBerry, huge success, they failed.
Yeah.
So incremental, the uniqueness should be keep on coming in. See, the first 10 years ago, the VR headset comes, but now it comes. And the Samsung Galaxy we have seen, how many of these features have come? The emotional tracking, analytics and all that. Likewise, so the perseverance, consistency should be there to succeed in the market.
Sure. Thank you.
Just to add it, BlackBerry failed, they learned from the failed, now they are equally successful.
True. All right. Okay. All right. So I'll go back. So this is something very specific for a country like India, where localization in terms of languages and the culture in terms of driving behavior or the road environments. And of course, this is important, but the question is how important is this localization in the XR-based solutions? Because something that is developed, let's say in the Europe or the North Americas, is not necessarily applicable to us, as pointed out by Arjun already, in terms of the buying experience. Similar to that, the languages and the cultural driving behavior, this also leads us to the training people with different backgrounds and stuff like that. What is your comment on that? Open to the committee, the panel.
Localization is very, very equally important. I'll just touch on that. We can get the product and part with the CKD, SKD conditions. And so the cost benefit only will come when we do localization. It will build the skill on opportunity from being in India, etc. So that's why I'll give you one example. And that's what the JLR. JLR is getting all the parts from the outside. It's still single part, there is not being, even the fasteners also not being made. I'll give you live examples. We are working for the Tata Motors Myanmar project, right? We're setting up a plant on the request of the government of India in plant. We set up the plant, right? And after setting the plant, we are making only one vehicle there. We're supplying the product from the CKD to there and then making. So we are presenting this to our chairman at that time. So we're reviewing that. Then sir mentioned about it that you have set up the plant. How about the local community development? How are making sure that job people get it there? Then he emphasized that do the localization, don't send the part, try identify the part, do the localization. That's where the entire economy growth will happen. This is very, very important that we must do the localization. We should have a plan for that. Thank you.
I think I will cover on the road environment side.
Okay.
So the road environment is very different from the Europe and India, and I will try to cover one of the use cases that we encountered. So the sunsets in Europe is very different when viewed in camera when compared to the sunsets in India, and like that made us think about certain algorithm development of how we are going to track about this autonomous driving in India and also in Europe. So even for XR-based solutions, these conditions prevail. The way at which the pupil colors or how the heart rates differ between different cultural groups, the accepted norm can be different there, can be different here, the skin complexion, etc. And all of this has to be taken care because that helps in also the customer feedback. The way they understand or like perceive the environment, everything changes. So I think, yeah, we have to pay a lot of importance like to the cultural differences and also for the global south when developing the algorithms or the solutions based on Excel.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Yeah, please.
I agree with everything my fellow panelists have said. I'll just add on top of that I think the future interaction modality of XR is going to be LLMs and voice. And so it's going to be crucial that these models are able to communicate with people in their own native language and not in one of the few languages that they currently support. So,
okay. Yeah. One other things what I would suggest, the climatic conditions. A lot of the sensor-based assistance can be given to the people. And we have to value to all the languages and traffic rules as well, according to the locations. Yeah, this comes, it will be great use case for the people using XR. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, so this is another question, right? So the moment we talk about XR hardware, it's you want a good one. Let's not discuss on which one is good. And you want a good one, it's like super expensive, right? What strategies can make it affordable for adoption, specifically in the global south? Yeah, go ahead. It's an open question.
I can go for it. So I feel like we should give a lot of importance for sensor virtualization.
Sensor virtualization,
So
okay.
the major expensive part in hardware like that we see in XR devices is the sensors as such. So can we go for sensor virtualization which tries to cut down the redundant sensors, or it can be used with just two sensors? For example, we saw a demo before like with the stereo cameras which can eradicate the need of LiDAR and can give the depth that we can perceive in front of us. So all that will try to cut down the sensor costs and like the in effect the hardware cost as well. And I think that's needed because it makes it affordable.
Sure.
So sensor virtualization is.
my approach, or I think even things are moving towards that direction, is we might have to, use case wise, we might have to have XR hardware. Currently what is happening, everyone is trying to fit everything into one single hardware. So it could be different use case, different hardwares. For example, so let's say the current smart glass, only camera and AI. So there are good use cases we currently are doing with power industries on vigilance. But the same might not work for troubleshooting. So there they might need a display and camera both. So if we are able to make use case specific, problem specific hardwares, then maybe the cost eventually can go down and the adoption can increase. And again, adoption increases, volume increases, the cost again goes down. So that's
So essentially, you don't need an AK-47 to kill a mosquito. So you just need a mosquito repellent to get rid of it. All right, please.
Yeah. See, XR gives immersive experience. To build the immersive experience, it's still costly.
Yes, agree, completely.
See, still the gaming laptop, workstation laptops, pretty costly. GPUs, more costly. And in the enterprise side, software license also costly, right? Unity and all that, it's pretty costly. But immersiveness, it is not depend on the devices. It should be independent. See, 95% people use no smartphone. Why can't a smartphone-based immersive experience can be provided, right? That's when slowly the adoption can come. Yeah. So WebXR is one example, the whole world is moving 2.0 to 3.0. So those things are no low-hanging options. Right. There itself, we can bring in immersiveness. Of course, some areas, the simulation is much needed. Exclusive areas, repeated trainings might happen where the cost and money is spent a lot. Those things we can go for, VR-based simulated trainings and all that. But many low-hanging options are there, the operational assistances and all that. Their smartphone is enough to give immersive experiences. That's still, not yet happened in many industries. That should be, changed over to that.
Yeah. Thanks for that interesting point, because there was another panel a couple of hours ago. There exactly the same point was driven, like a smartphone-driven approaches should be encouraged. Thanks for that point. Arjun, you have a take?
Yeah. I would, just add as well, actually following on from your point about WebXR, I think the future of XR is also going to be streamed. We're getting better and better at being able to generate this content on the edge or in the cloud and stream it to a much lower powered device. And so you'll be able to have a low powered device with a small processor, but you'll be able to have content that is really visually stunning and realistic delivered to that device. And there's also a low tech answer. We need to share, right? When we were all kids, we would not have a computer. We'd go to the video game, we'd go to the PC cafe and we'd all play there together. I think VR arcades and these kinds of facilities are now starting to spring up where people share devices. But for that to happen, especially with the more personalized devices with eye tracking and face tracking, the device manufacturers need to make sure that their device onboarding is as seamless and easy as possible. Just pick up the thing, you put it on your face, and it should just start working. Having a long and complicated setup makes it difficult to share these things.
Okay. All right.
I endorse what he said, right? Because in the gadget, a lot of innovation is still required.
Of course.
It's expensive, head-mounted, simple device, spec, one layer of on the glass, that makes the all immersive experience.
Right.
A lot of innovation still to come.
Okay, thank you. So that sort of brings us to the end of the questions that I have for the panel. And I'll try to summarize this again, just like I started this panel saying, so I don't know what weightage to give to what, because it seems like all of them are equally important. But quickly from the notes that I've made, it turns out that XR is certainly a boon, and that statement is not specific for automotive. It is for any industry that we are talking about. And so one of the points that was made was we predominantly depend for testing and other kind of stuff. We are not very localized about that whole thing. So can we use XR to bring that to India? That's one thing. And another important point that came out was how subjective experiences can be made objective. As a researcher, this is like super important for someone like me, because I'm more like a data-driven person. So anything that is subjective, like good, bad, ugly, does not work for me. 1, 2, 3 does work. So this is like super learning for me. Like, how can we make subjective things? We can make subjective things objective using an XR kind of stuff. And
so how can we measure it? That's what Professor Mani always speaks about.
Exactly, yeah, that's one thing. And then even things like motion sickness that was brought up, that's an interesting thing. And the other point that was making was the uneven access, and people rely on, at least in a context like India, we rely on the experience and verbal instructions that can be formalized, and which will also help in documentation and compliances. That's one thing. And the other one that was spoken about was about design factor haptics. If there's a way that we can reduce the cost, that could be a huge benefit. Money. Then, of course, Rabindra pointed out there are about 35 problem statements that people can reach out. That could be a great starting point for someone who wants to try develop something in XR. And digital prototyping labs have been super expensive in the past, but there's a significant opportunity for us to reduce the cost with these XR technologies. That's one thing. And very nice stuff that was brought up by Arjun. He gave even relevance in terms of how much do we need to process if I need to show 4 images per second, how much in terms of the compute power that is required. And as you appreciate the Moore's law, because we want to go smaller and smaller so that the form factor goes down, but our compute capability goes up exponentially. So that's a conflicting nature that we need to solve in a multi-criteria context. And the one question that, we asked, what is that one point that you would suggest to young entrepreneurs? The point was pick up a nice problem, solve it to the ground, and money is just a byproduct. So that's one thing. And perseverance, be committed to the problem was suggested by someone, by another panelist. And in terms of localization, it was talked about if there's a way that we can sensor virtualization, that will be a nice thing. And very interesting points that came out, like sunset in India. That is something that I learned today. Sunset, the view is different in India compared to Europe or the North Americas. And if you need to model that, then you need to do that. That reminds me of something. When I joined here in the beginning, we used to work with a earth moving equipment company, and they were operating elsewhere outside India, and then they had this envelope. And when they brought it to India, that's where these people started. The envelope is supposed to be the upper cap, but that's where the Indian operators started, and they were starting to abuse. So they came up with an abuse envelope after that. So it is something like that. Localization is super important to India. And and the expensiveness, as they pointed out, there are different ways, including sharing was suggested. That's the summary that comes up from this panel discussion. We'll try to write it up and host it in the XTAC webpage going forward. Thank you very much for participating, and thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much.
One small point.
Sure, please.
We have been going through these questions. The kind of questions were asked, the depth of the questions, it says that someone who is moderating and asking question must have worked for more than 50 years in automotive. Mr. Professor Palani, very fantastic question you have asked, very deeper, insight questions realized.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
We thank Professor Palaniappan, Ramu, and all the panelists for an insightful and engaging discussion.